by my friend Owen Jones, who, if you may have watched, we got at least 200 views on our Christian Zionism show when we did that. So it's getting out there. And yeah, and I was about to tell him about what's going on in California, which I've been trying desperately to get out there into the media space, and I've reached out to 2 or 3 people to talk about it. So all the oil refineries are going to shut down in the next year.
In California?
In California. They've sent notes to the State House. All the refineries, except for one, and they'll probably join them in the end, are have sent notes to Sacramento and the governor's office saying we're shutting down all our refineries because we can't take your cap and trade bullshit anymore.
So this is not the state government didn't force this. They forced it through their legislation, but they didn't actually force them to shut down, right?
No, but they already had one shut down, and it was providing all the aviation gas for Travis Air Force Base.
Oh my God!
And 2 of the other refineries provide all the remaining aviation gas in the state, and they're set for shutdown. So, and they are at max capacity in the ports. But California thinks they can import the gas, and they can't. Where? I know.
Where's the gas going to come from?
They've been getting gas from South Korea, but right now, with the Straits of Hormuz under blockade, all those Asian countries are harboring their oil and not going to ship it anymore.
This is because the legislation is filled with people that have never done anything.
Yeah.
They've been community organizers to city council or some bullshit to down like the Soviet Politburo style.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
They demand the, production go up and we'll just do this. It's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
Because they haven't done anything. They don't know how anything works.
Yep.
Wow. But also they don't care because they're insulated.
Well, they're going to care when all the trucks stop delivering groceries to the grocery stores because you have a just-in-time inventory system where you run out of food in 3 to 5 days.
Wow. Oh my God. They're going to be even more Californians moving out of California now.
Oh, yeah. It'll be like it'll make what happened at the border look like a joke.
Dude, they're a cancer. I don't want any more of those people going anywhere else. I hope they all go to Colorado.
Oh, they do like to go to Colorado because it's a blue state now.
Yeah, a lot of weed there. They like weed, so hopefully that catches them.
Yeah, it's famine
in a breadbasket.
Refugee crisis. So
you're gonna have famine in a breadbasket state.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to add about that other than I'm not really we knew this was going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked. It's out of left field. It is out of left field. It's from the left.
Yeah, we're literally out of left field. Left field on the left coast.
Yeah, man, I got nothing to say about it other than this is going to be God, I'm just thinking they're going to move out of California. There's going to be so many Californians moving out of California. There's already too many Californians all over the country, like a cancer. So
a friend of mine who's he's not so much a podcaster as he is a guy who goes on a lot of podcasts. He just speculated today. He thinks Trump's going to use the Defense Authorization Act to nationalize the refineries right around the primaries, the June primary.
Well, that's going to have no effect on the primaries, but yeah. I mean, he might do it then. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to nationalizing things. I mean,
yeah, Yeah,
I'm a
especially
nationalist.
when it's like we need to nationalize these refineries so our military can function.
Yeah, and so that the populace doesn't starve.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not the job of the government to like feed the populace, but it's
mm,
like a politically made disaster, like natural disaster, like what they're doing. That's like
yeah,
on that level. But I've always been okay with. I'm not a libertarian. I've always been okay with.
yeah.
Like when other countries, like when Iran, like nationalized their oil in the 50s, I was always like, yeah, that's you can do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Now the problem for Iran is they didn't pay the British for it.
Yeah. Well.
You know, the British did put 14 billion pounds of money into your country. You got to figure out a way to pay them back.
Yeah, that was a little rough, but they did it through an act of parliament. I mean, it's like they're paying them back.
Yep.
In bowler hats. That's the picture of the guys in the bowler hats in Iran. It was just funny to me. But yeah. I got nothing else to add other than I'm not looking forward to the further exodus of Californians throughout the country, spreading with them. And oh God, well, hopefully their prices crash before they can sell their houses. Part of the problem is like they have some like shitbox house. Can I curse?
Yeah, yeah.
They've got like some shitbox house that's like $1 million and it's like 1,000 square feet, and they sell it and they come over here like lords and wherever they go and like live large, and then by having so much money alter like fundamentally the culture of the places they're going to, always for the worse.
Yeah,
it just sucks.
Yeah,
but
the speculation or the other speculation I hear, they'll nationalize once it gets to $10 gas in California, which I think it will happen.
I don't know. You know what? I mean, I would only do it for the ones that for the aviation fuel needed for the military, and then I would let. This is rough, but you know, it's like a parent with an addict for a kid.
Yeah,
you love them, right? Like even though they're Californians, there's still a lot of Americans in California. A lot of Californians that aren't Americans, and I don't mean the illegals or any of that stuff. I'm talking. But it's like, we love you, but this is for your own good. You have to suffer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I hope he doesn't nationalize all of them.
Yeah. Yep. He'll do some of them, I think. But basically, like one guy I've been watching who's talking about this, he ran Valero, which was the first refinery, the latest refinery to close. And he's like, we provided all the fuel to Travis Air Force Base. We provide all this other stuff, the plastics industry, all these other things we have to do. And I wanted my state house representative, let him know what's going on. He's been trying to do something because I guess he lives in one of the few Republican districts. But yeah, they just, like you said, they're all these commies who've never done any work in their life and other than do government. And yeah, and they just don't know. Some people think this might be part of the speculation has been, this is for China that got waltz in when the West Coast is all gone.
Yeah, perfect landing place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Kurt Schlichter has that series. I think you know about it.
Yeah, I think I recommended it to you.
Yeah, I was reading it during COVID. Kelly Turnbull or whatever, and it's like like we go through a peaceful national divorce and stuff, which is ridiculous. That would never happen peacefully. But
in the later books, it's not so peaceful.
It's not peaceful. I did get that far where they invade California, but like the blue states end up like inviting in China and stuff because they have more in common with them anyways. I mean, Christ, the only time they ever clean up the state is when the Chinese come by to visit.
Yep.
So which is a very Chinese thing to do. That's it's how like in there, I forget what they call them. The Japanese call them prefectures. What do the Chinese call them?
I don't know I've never really thought about what the Chinese would call them. I think they're provinces.
Province. Yes, it'll be like some ridiculous set of syllables province. Yeah. And they'll they just do, it's like there's a guy on YouTube, Serpent Za or something. He's like a South
Yeah.
African. Yeah. And he documents just how fake China is. Like how like they'll just do a bunch of stuff to like make it look nice before an inspection and stuff, and then it's like literally they'll be like painting the grass green and things and like spraying, like doing crazy stuff, like spraying like plastic stuff. They'll put a bunch of plastic flowers and things to make it like, because they were supposed to have planted flowers. It's weird, it's crazy, but that's what California's like. They're already Chinese. They're spiritually Chinese. Having nothing to do,
running around.
Before I get in trouble, not that I care too much, but having nothing to do with the large Chinese population in California. But that's a separate conversation. It's not unrelated to what the type of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that. So now we're looking at Ireland, and I believe that's where your people come from.
I'm from all the British Isles. I don't know the Irish would like to be called part of the British Isles, but I'm from.
No, I do think they are okay with being called part of the British Isles, or no, they call it something else. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's where all the DNA tests and stuff, which is the family history. We know all the people. We tracked them back and before.
I'm descended from a Plantagenet.
Yeah, the better than the Plantagenets, they kind of fell off there, man. They kind of, they really weren't.
Richard III's wife is some sort of great grandmother. So it's literally.
They found his body. That's really cool. Yeah, but the Tudors were better. That's a side topic. But the Tudors were like I don't agree with them politically. Like a lot of the things they did, obviously, were just horrendous. But like they were incredibly capable and skinny and like smart, especially like Henry, as insane as he was a very effective ruler, and Elizabeth was genuinely like a genius, like brilliant.
I did a show a little while ago with a friend of mine, Money Circus, and he's from the UK, but now he lives in Georgia, the country, and he went into this big rant about the Tudors under Elizabeth, especially, were basically a police state.
Yeah, I would say that is true, but imagine effectively running a police state without electricity, without listening devices. I mean, it's like, again, not towards necessarily good ends, but brilliant. Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of the Irish. I like the Irish. The Irish do not like Americans who are descended from Irish people saying I'm Irish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a big thing. They get very annoyed. It's like a meme for them is like an American will come over to Ireland and be like, I'm Irish. And they're like, you're what now? They hate it. They make all these like TikToks and videos about it. Like they're very, I guess, annoyed. They're like, you're not Irish. And I'm more Irish than the Algerians that are over there. I don't know. But yeah, I'm very hopeful that they will. I don't know anything about the domestic politics of Ireland other than it's odious. It's horrendous. Every story is just a night.
I did listen to British Bridget Fetisi. She did a great 45-minute interview with this guy from Ireland, and he was explaining the whole system. Basically, it's like all the political parties are left-wing. Yeah, so it's just different shades of leftism.
But that's part of the problem is that like all of those they were a lot of those nationalists. What I'm about to say, parse my words here. I'm not calling them. Were also socialists.
Yeah,
100 years ago. So they were nationalists, socialists, but they weren't Nazis. But they were nationalists and socialists, and they like. So I think like over time. The socialism won out, basically.
Yeah. At least amongst the government.
Amongst the government, the people are. Well, the Catholic Church. The church isn't what it was because of the scandals, the stuff they're up to. They're up to no good. Which is a shame because actually some of the best, like the Irish had worldwide Catholic. They had priests anywhere in the world that were Irish. They were like a fecund nation for priesthood. They produced I don't even know how many priests. But I'm very hopeful. I've been listening to all the old IRA songs. I've been listening to "Come Out You Black and Tans," "My Little Armalite," "The Foggy Dew." I've been like, yeah.
Well, my favorite
you,
St. Patrick's Day song is, of course, the St. Patrick's Battalion, but we don't have to get into that one.
I don't even know if I'm familiar with that one.
Oh, okay. It is basically a group of Roman Catholic soldiers are drafted into get all from Ireland, show up on the in New York, or they join. They were forcibly conscripted into the Mexican-American War, and
and
they
they joined,
and they go to the other side.
Yeah, I do have that. I have a book by Samuel Chamberlain called "My Confessions: Recollections of a Rogue." Oh, it's really windy out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always windy in Oklahoma, but I don't know why my wife is trying to distract me right now. But and he talks about they're just full of Irish and stuff. I never really got to where there's like a defection, but I know a bunch of them joined the Mexicans, and then that's why there's all these red-haired Irish Mexicans.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom Berenger actually made a movie. That's how I discovered it. Tom Berenger made a movie about them, and he had to go to Mexico because he couldn't get any Americans to fund it.
Wow. Yeah, but that's this. I got it right here. Hang on. My Confessions: Recollections of a Rogue. This is a fantastic book. He basically was from Boston and then just like goes on. He's like goes kind of adventuring and just gets into all kinds of like. It's an incredible. He commits murder. He gets in these duels over these Tejano women and like things that they liked him more than this other. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in here.
Yeah, kind of like the original definition of filibustering.
Yeah, well, also it's apparently I found out after I got it, but I guess it was the inspiration for Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. So yeah. But I hope the Irish can. I tell you what they need. I don't think I'm legally. Am I legally allowed to say? I don't think I can. This is going to go on YouTube. I'll tell you what they need. They need some gallows.
Oh yeah, no. You can say that on there. On here, my friend Tom, who I was mentioning earlier, he's been long on guillotines. What's it? Rope guillotines and lead futures for years now.
Yeah. Well, they don't have. I'm gonna say like they did a big gun confiscation thing and stuff. I don't even know if they have the Armalites anymore, and I don't know how they get their hands on them now.
My understanding is I was talking to a guy last night, and he knows one of the former IRA guys, and those guys didn't give up their guns.
I would have, if I was in the IRA, I would have never given up my guns.
Yeah. So apparently there's a lot of guns buried away in people's backyards in Ireland.
I went to Ireland when I was 12, and we stayed with relatives actually. And this would have been, when did the Troubles end? It was in the 90s, right? It was
yeah, they managed to finally get the Belfast agreements through.
Yeah. But I wish I could remember, but the guy we stayed with, Francis, some kind of cousin or something, was explaining to my parents about politics, but I just didn't care about politics when I was 12. But I wish I had paid attention because he was complaining about the Republican government. Republican meaning it's the form of, he was like just complaining about the government, not Republican Party. And I hope that they can get some kind of like right-wing government that's nationalist for the Irish people, because like I remember them complaining about gypsies in Ireland when we were there. They had like gypsy issues. I mean, there's gypsies all over, but it was never too bad of a problem in Ireland, I think, until like it was semi-recent or something. But yeah, I really hope that they haul the politicians out by their shirt tails, hang them by their ankles, and skin them.
Yeah. I think that might be the direction of travel, because some of the videos that I've seen of the people confronting the Garda.
These Garda guys are like tyrants, and like the people have had it.
Yeah.
And Ireland is a very small country. It's like the size of like New Jersey or something. I mean, it is, and they do not have a militarized police force that can put the people down. And it's too many people.
They called out the army, and I looked it up, and you guess how big the army is?
It's like 20,000 people or something, isn't it? It's like
between the Army, Air Force, and Coast Guard and Navy, and I'm not too sure if they have a Navy, it's 8,000 with the reserves.
With the reserves. Oh, I saw something that was like a combined forces thing that added like the Garda, the police, everything else.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just the active protesters are like in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
That doesn't even count the people that. I also saw that they're like, I don't know if it started today, but they're gonna like just stop doing business as a part of their protest. Is like, we're shutting down businesses. Yep. And
that makes sense.
You know how the revolution in America, how they did it was they destroyed the businesses that didn't participate in their boycotting. When they were doing the boycotts and stuff, they would like destroy the business. So there was all these libertarians that make these arguments like, well, you protest, but these other people don't protest. I was like, that's not how we started this party. We started the party where we enforced our views on the rest of the. I feel like you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine a few years ago. He was doing a bunch of studying on the American Revolution, and he came up to me and said, "Dave, did you know that during the Revolution, we really did a pogrom on the Canadian the Loyalists?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got taught that in 7th grade, Merle."
Yeah, but to be honest, they were doing a pogrom on the Patriots before that during the revolution in the areas.
Oh yeah, both sides did it. It was very
so turnabout. They were all good Englishmen at the start. Turnabout is fair play, and you confiscated our property. Now we're taking our property back, and we're taking your property, and you have to leave. Go to Canada. No offense.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm going to have.
I don't know where you're going to go, but you can't stay here.
Yeah. A lot of them, the rich ones, went to like the Caribbean. And the middle class ones came here and decided they were never going to let that happen again.
And they swore undying, eternal loyalty to the crown.
Mm. Well, no, that's not as. I'm going to be doing a podcast soon on the real Canadian history that I've seemed to be able to find out. But basically, after the Oregon decision, the people who run my country said we can never let the Brits make that kind of decision for us again. They didn't consult with us. They didn't talk to us. So we've had very quiet revolutionary stuff. We're nowhere near as status as Australia is still.
I mean, one of the contributing factors of the revolution was the British, who had decided as part of the peace treaty that they were forbidding further westward expansion and settlement.
I remember that.
Americans. So literally the exact same thing, basically, where they made that decision for the colonists. The colonists were like, yeah, well, we're going to keep doing that. So
yeah,
we're going to keep going west. We're going to keep building log cabins. You're not stopping us. Yeah. We don't care. And we're very upset that you're actively trying to hinder us do this.
Yeah. So after 1848, when they basically set the line at the 49th parallel, and the people who run in Canada realized they could have easily done the 47th parallel.
Whoa, it almost was.
Yeah. And they're like, we can't trust these people. We got to get out from under them. And it took a long time. What's that?
Was it President Polk, I think?
Yeah, I know, because it became an issue. One of the presidents. But yeah, I haven't done the full study on the thing, but I just wanted to make sure I got the date right, because from the Canadian, I remember that being a big thing when I was doing my Canadian studies, history, reading about Canadian history when I was younger. And it was just like, oh yeah, and they were teaching this to me in school, that I think it was grade 8, they were teaching us about this stuff. But basically the British North American Act is because we can't trust the British to make decisions for us. So it took a while to organize, but eventually Canada is formed because we can't trust the British to make decisions for us.
Perfidious Albion. What can you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the City of London conspiracy?
Oh, what time period is the conspiracy?
It's been going on for 500 years, or started since the Glorious Revolution, still going now.
Does that have anything to do with the independence of the City of London? Like there's like a little cutout within
that's
the
where they put all the banks.
Yeah.
So
I don't know the details of the conspiracy, but I can parse out that it probably involves the part of the City of London that's called the City of London that's its own independent polity. Like,
I watched some documentaries on it, and it's been kind of a big focus on my channel from other people that I've been following who I just call them financialists usually instead of the City of London, because I think it's more, I mean, you got Wall Street as well tied into this, and you got Canadian banking cartel, and you got other groups, the French are involved. So there's a bunch of different people involved in this thing. But basically, that's what I've been working on, talking on my podcast. And I also talking a bit about what's been going on in the space race, because Artemis 2 just came back.
Yeah. I saw that Artemis 2 came back. But I'll be honest, it's like, I want to care, but it's like, what's the point? I feel so much like this would be so cool, man, if you didn't start a war with Iran. I'm like, I just don't.
You have to fight. You have to stop this perpetual 47-year terrorism of threat of the Strait of Hormuz. And it's actually kind of a great strategy from a strategic overview. It might cost him his presidency, but it's really hurting all the people we don't like. I mean, we're having this revolt in Ireland, and I was talking to a friend of mine who I'm going to be staying with in England in July. Says I could stay for as long as I want, apparently. But she's like, yeah, because I asked her about what's going on. She knew what's going on in Ireland. She says, they're getting ready to do that here in England.
Good.
And unlike, say, Ireland, which has a big strategic reserve of gasoline, it's laid out in England in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and
and basically by blockading the strait, you're taking 20% off the world's energy off the market. And who's the major consumer of that? Europe. And now, kind of hard to fund a war when your people are starving Europe.
Yeah. Well, it didn't stop Germany from joining in on the Ukraine stuff. I mean, and did you see that the this past winter was rough in Germany? And
I knew that was going to happen.
They were evacuating the illegals and the Muslims and the asylum seekers and the refugees and abandoning like German people to like freeze to death.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're not bothered by that. Oh, dude, the electrician I work with, he's German. His name's Joe. His sister is the German Secretary of State. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, she sent me a picture of her with the king of Saudi Arabia, and she's not wearing a head cover. If she were the Secretary of State, she'd have to wear a head cover. That's not a really good German accent, but he's a very light German accent. And I was just like, I was blown away. I was like, he's like a crazy radical like me, and he was like, yeah, if I was in Germany, she would have no career because I would be like, they would just be plastering me all over there, the things that I say and like have done or whatever, or like it just would never have happened.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. But we're definitely seeing my friend, she's been going through some legal, she's trying to prosecute someone, and she was despairing because of how lax the police system is in UK. And I was like, yeah, well, but if that guy had posted something nasty about Muslims on
That's what I was about to say.
Facebook, he'd be in jail. But
I was going to say it's anarcho tyranny. It's not actually lax. They're actually tyrannical, just not about crimes that are actually crimes. Just they're anarcho. They're tyrannical about crimes that have nothing to do with violating divine or natural law. They're just their political, just things that you say that violate their political blasphemy laws.
Yeah, I think you should. I don't think you've heard of them. They're called Promethean Action.
I have heard of Promethean Action. Why have I heard of Promethean Action?
I might have mentioned them last time you were on, but you should definitely check them out.
This is in England?
No, this is in the United States.
Oh, that's right. They're a yeah. Maybe it was you that.
I did. Yeah, they used to be part of that guy's organization, Lyndon and LaRouche, who the FBI and under a very young agent Mueller was involved in that case, prosecuted him and tried to make him look like a communist.
Yeah, I was going to say the name LaRouche brings to my mind socialist or communist. Like that's the first thing I think when I hear LaRouche. Is there a LaRouche society?
Yeah, they're the Lyndon and LaRouche. These are a breakaway group from the Lyndon and LaRouche Society, and they say we have nothing to do with them anymore. But Lyndon and LaRouche was in the Reagan administration.
Well, there were a lot of Bolsheviks in the Reagan administration, to be honest.
That's true.
So that doesn't really. And Reagan is not my idea of. I might be wearing a jean jacket here, but I would not call ushering through no-fault divorce, mass amnesty, and passing gun control my idea of right wing. Yeah. But so I'm not a big Reagan fan. And somebody's saying, "I'll tell you who's great, Nixon."
Yep.
I'm more of a Nixon and Buchananite than I am a Reaganite. I think the Reaganites are the worst. They're the pits. They're the worst. They destroyed this country.
Yeah, Buchanan later regretted leaving the administration in the second term because he said, if I would have been, Watergate would never either happened, or I would have had a bonfire on the front lawn of the White House with all the tapes.
Who said that?
Pat Buchanan said that. If I'd still been in the administration, I would have had a bonfire with those tapes on the front lawn of the White House.
The whole country would be totally different. I mean, talk about a landslide. God. Oh. Yeah. I mean, the country was crazy for Dick Nixon. They loved him.
Yep.
And after Grover Cleveland, maybe until Trump, maybe greatest American political comeback.
Yep.
And then, God, so weird. The big comeback. And then also to end in such a whimper.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I'm a bit more hopeful than you because I'm listening to different people, but I get it why you're frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, I just learned out today that a lot of the podcast right is actually working for Fox News still.
Which ones? I don't know any.
Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. I can't remember what there was a couple other names mentioned. I'm pretty sure redacted. It's actually independent, but basically they have a branding deal that provides a lot of their advertisers. And guess who? And it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Fox News.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. I still watch some of their stuff, but I love that episode with Tucker and The Exorcist.
Oh, dude, I've been watching that guy, Chad Ripperger, for years. I was astonished when I saw Tucker brought him on, but I still have yet to watch it. But I've seen some clips, and I'm really excited to sit down and listen to it. But yeah, I have listened to literally, he will give a sermon that is an hour long, and I have listened through hours and hours of sermons and of him speaking on the spiritual realm and angels, demons, and the forces and the all this stuff, virtue and other things and how to. I'm into all the I'm not interested in like the boring Christianity of like the evangelicals and like the more like low church and like these other things where it's I'm into the esoteric Christianity. Though I'm here for I want the whole kit and caboodle. I want the weird stuff.
Yeah.
I believe it. I'm here.
Yeah, I believe in demons as well. I believe there's a great short-lived British TV show, and kind of put me into this notion of like, basically these two girls are on antipsychotics, right? Because they supposedly have schizophrenia, but they stop taking them, and they start noticing demons all over the place. Turns out antipsychotics it turns out schizophrenia is some of the schizophrenias is actually seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
And the demons had created antipsychotics or antidepressants to make them look normal.
Sorry, the demons have convinced people to take them?
Well, because through modern psychiatry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no, I agree with that because the modern psychology and all that stuff. I mean, Jung was like, okay, you know, he believed in the spiritual, in like an unseen world, these other things. But the modern psychology people, like that whole pseudoscience, it's materialist at its base, right? So, like, I don't think if you're a Christian, you should not be. You can go to counseling. But it should be like specifically a Christian counselor. You should have nothing to do with. And also, if you're depressed, maybe you should be depressed. You might have some stuff you should be depressed about. Like maybe you shouldn't get on antidepressants. It's like because I was like put on this when I was a teenager, and I firmly believe it's like, well, like you're a teenager, life sucks. You should maybe you be depressed, contemplate things. You might write something interesting, like. So I'm firmly against almost all like psychotic drugs, and I completely agree. Now, even Chad Ripperger will say, like, you know, you have to establish whether somebody who is seeking help from the church is it purely a psychological issue. If you establish it's not, then you got to parse through like that stuff.
Yeah, he said he gets 600 to 800 referrals a month, and usually it's about 4 that are real. And with 7.5 billion people on the planet, that's like, I think one of the reasons why when Tucker talks about like these stuff where the Bible's like 1/4, at least a quarter of it is people exorcising demons, is that there's a lot more people on the planet now, right? So it's much harder for us to see the effects of these things because
because the demons there are a lot of demons, but they're not making new ones. It's the same ones. In fact, in the Bible, and this gets into, I mean, we can get into some esoteric Christianity stuff, but there's a book called, hold on, I got it right here. I found a clique in my Episcopal Anglican church, David, and it's my people. I'm the least formally educated in this group, but they are into the esoteric. They are into, one of the guys is like a judge. He actually speaks and reads ancient Greek and Latin.
Nice.
I recently got into this clique, and I was like, yes, like 5 people. It's called Reversing Herman. I've just started this book. It's about this exact thing. But like I've been into this stuff for like years, and the demons are either fallen angels, which Father Ripperger lays out. What a great name, by the way, for an exorcist. Who you know, the demon gets back to hell or to other demons. It's like it was Father Chad. And then to have Ripper in his name, he rips the demons right out of you. He wouldn't say that. It's God doing it. He's just But the demons are either the spirits of the Nephilim. So the Nephilim would be the children of fallen angels. This would be Genesis 6. This is in Genesis. It's like one very brief thing, and you might know what I'm about to say, where it says, the sons of God found the daughters of man comely. And then they, now I'm missing it up. But basically they come down, they're like, they look nice. And
yeah, well, remember I recommended that book series to you.
Which one was this?
The one where the
yes. Yeah. That's I got the first book on that. The fiction one where it turns out the demons. Well, I'm like, that's my kind of jam. That's what I'm about. I'm like,
yeah.
I love the idea of it's like, yeah, you have science, technology. Guess what? God's still real. These things aren't going away. And they're like, so they're either fallen angels or they are essentially the spirits, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim who were killed, but are basically trapped on Earth until the judgment. And when you go in the New Testament, Christ, like a third of what he's doing is like exorcising and dealing with demons and these spirits. And the demons, it might be legion, I'm not sure, but essentially one demon says to him, he's like, this, like, what are you doing? This is not the appointed time or the appointed hour, depending on. And the appointed time and the hour is judgment. It's when Christ comes back and as the judge and judges, and all of them will be judged, right? And that's what the demon is referring to. And they have, or that demon might have been a fallen angel, one of the third of the fallen host, where they're born with full knowledge, or not born, created. They're created with full knowledge, which I also learned about from Father. I got all into like demonology and stuff like 3 years ago, because I was like, that's, or maybe 2 years ago. That's when I I'll tell you about that later, whatever. But I was like trying to become more virtuous, and I was like worried. I started getting more and more into Christianity. I was like, I think I'm like, am I encountering like when you try to become a better person, or becoming a better person is so trite, but like the only way you become a better person is to align yourself more with God.
Yeah.
Which is anybody, by the way. I don't care what religion you are. If you're a Buddhist or anybody else, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You're not a better person by not being. I'm becoming better in my own way. That's not a thing. It's an objective morality and good. So, but, so I started being like, I better like, I don't want to be like this. Like, I'm like, I believe in this, like the unseen world or whatever, and that stuff. And
Project Stargate.
Yeah, man, that's weird.
Yep.
You know who's into that is, Rudyard Lynch.
Yeah, I occasionally watch him still, not as much as I used to.
Yeah, he got one-shotted by, what was it, ayahuasca? I don't know what it was, but I didn't listen to it, but like he put out like a 4.5 hour video. And I was like, whoa, I was like, this is going to be great. Like, what is this? And it was like the ramblings of a madman. I didn't bother listening. I skipped around a little bit, and everywhere I went to was like insanity, like him talking about, I don't even know what stuff about his parents and stuff that wasn't even real, but like that he got from this trip and stuff, like things that didn't even happen. And
and there's another guy who does that. The guy who does he's been on Piers Morgan a couple times. The guy who does all the ancient our history is not the history we think it is. It actually goes back to, yeah, I think so.
The British, you think so? He is. I call them tartarded. People that believe in Tartaria are tartarded.
Oh, okay. No, we definitely have evidence that things are older than we've had.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that. Yeah, I don't believe in Tartaria though.
Oh no, I don't think that's a thing. I don't even know what that is.
Oh, okay. So you don't know what I was talking about. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, if he wasn't talking about Tartaria, then I'm probably in alignment with him. But, it's this like, it's very low tier. you know what? It's a consequence. It's like when the Roman Empire in the West fell.
Hey, JP. Thanks for joining. My one loyal listener. He's in the chat.
And JP, is it?
Yeah, I think it's
the Canadian guy.
Is he a Canadian? Yeah, Jacqueline was one.
No, I think he's American, and I think he's in with he doesn't go to might not. I think he comes sometimes to book club, or he's definitely on the locals. He's on People's Pundits locals. I'm pretty sure that's where we connected.
JP Spooner, the comedian.
No, I don't think it's that one.
Oh,
I had him on a show once with Paul.
Oh, okay. Maybe I've spoken on book club, but then you'll be familiar with me, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Tartaria is this thing where like after
the book group, so he is from the book club.
Oh, okay.
But he never reveals himself.
Ah, one of the people recording us sending the information to the NSA or whatever. There's this group of people that basically, in the same way where after in the West, when they were no longer capable of creating great projects, of endeavoring upon them, they looked around at the things that the Romans had constructed, especially the groups of people like the Franks and the Goths, the different Goth groups that moved in. And once time had passed, they were like, this was built by giants. Men couldn't have built this. We're not capable of building this. How could other people have built this, right? So you see that now with people looking at the buildings that like literally were built in the 18th century in the Gilded Age. They're literally like, this is from a previous lost civilization that they are erasing. That's why they're destroying all these beautiful buildings. And like they're like they'll be like, look, the mud flood. They say this thing about, they call this thing the mud flood, where they say like it was covered by mud. We didn't build the Colosseum. Look at these other buildings, these things, they were covered by mud, and we expose them when we dig down. It's like, no, that's not. But it's really sad. It's actually depression. It's a sign to me of like the dark age we're actually entering into.
Yeah, definitely the dark age. I first learned what you were describing from Jerry Purnell on his old. He called it the first blog, and it was certainly in the running to be the first blog. And he said, a real dark age is not that you forgot how to build something. It's when you forgot that you did build something.
Yes,
you could do
you
that.
literally It's not that you like, oh, we don't know how to make that concrete anymore. It's that this is magic stone that the giants built. People aren't even capable of this. That's the dark age, and it's really depressing. That was the first thing I thought of when I was seeing the Tartaria thing. Was was that I was like, oh, this is really a bad sign, because
my other co-host who does a Friday show with me sometimes has also joined the chat. So hello, Warhound.
It's a good name. A dog of war. But I do believe like civilization is that there's a great American, he wrote 2 books on this. He was a senator from the Midwest. I want to say Michigan or Minnesota, but I'm not sure. Around the turn of the 18th to the 19th to 20th century. I want to say his name is Francis Donnelly. He wrote a book called the Antediluvian Age that I haven't read, but basically he lays out what Graham Hancock came to independently, which is that there was antediluvian, meaning before the flood in the Bible, that he lays out like the world would have been, that he thought that, which is crazy because now Graham Hancock and that guy Randall Carlson also think this. So to me, it's like, wow, how brilliant is Francis Donnelly? He thinks that Atlantis was the Azore Islands.
Mhm.
and that the Azores, that there was a cataclysm, that a rising of the waters, but also through Randall Carlson lays this out that the tectonics. So, like in England, I think
I'm
it's
bringing in Warhound, by the way, just so he'll be joining.
and this is kind of, we're like bouncing all over the place. I hope that's all right. But in England,
Oh yeah,
you
definitely.
see this with, I want to say Cornwall, where with the tides change the level. When the tides go out, not only does the water lower, but the weight of the water receding, the land actually lifts up. So they have crazy tides of like 10 feet, 20 feet.
There we go.
And the same thing would have happened with the giant plate tectonics, where you have all this weight from like ice on one side. Well, that weight of the ice pushes up the other side, and where that other side would have been with the weight of the glaciers would have been where the Azores are. It would have so not only would there have been less water, it would have been lower. It also would have been pushed up higher. And Randall Carlson went over recently about how like sometime in the past year with Graham Hancock, that they did, some geologists in the past had done a thing where like they did soil things where they found 500 something feet on the floor by the Azores was surface level soil and ground that had been there that would have been not bedrock, not this other stuff, which it's too deep for it to have been like that. And that really only points to the idea of like a vast shifting of elevation.
Oh, and I would like to point out they have recovered ceramics on the Azores Plateau.
So Francis Donnelly, all the credit in the world, flying by the seat of his pants, 126 years ago, based on American guts and intuition, laid out the picture of the pre-flood world correctly.
So I will point out two things. So one, the Azores Plateau, there's actually a segment of the plateau that very interestingly looks like it has a very natural harbor, that the dimensions match a certain Greek fella's description.
I was about to ask if they fit.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the the Eye of Africa, the whole bullshit that everybody loves to.
Yeah,
be
I don't think that makes sense with the description.
Here's the thing: is that the Atlanteans are known to have had 3 colonia. Right. So the chances, and what I've always believed personally,
they had how many? 11 kingdoms or something.
Well, so the Atlanteans are known to have had 3 settlements of their own, and then there were the kingdoms, which we know of approximately 11. There could have been more. There's also some back and forth on whether or not they were actually Greek kingdoms. How the Greeks had a bunch of like you for example had the what's the name of the Greek kingdom in the Black Sea?
Pontus?
Oh.
No, not Pontus. The one in Crimea, actually. I forget the name of it. God. Hold on. God, why am I not remembering this? The Bosphorus Kingdom.
Okay.
The Bosphorus Kingdom. A lot of people don't realize that, the Greeks, they had a very extensive network of colonies, and so did the Atlanteans. There's actually a big. It's not a theory necessarily. It's more like a true hypothesis that is currently being worked out. Is like, hey, what are the chances the Mound Builders were actually Atlanteans?
The ones in the Mississippi Valley?
not just them, because remember the Mound Builders, as we know them, as we understand that ancient kingdom, it wasn't just the Mississippi Valley that they were located in. It was from the Rockies to the Appalachians. And they had a presence across the board following the tributaries of the Mississippi Delta. So,
how would they have reached that? Because the Mississippi flows in the wrong direction for them to go upstream.
No. So remember, you have the Mississippi, which is the main waterway, but then you have all the tributaries. Like, for example, where's the Serpent Mound?
The one in Missouri? Which one is that?
No, it's here in Ohio. Yeah, and you then look at that with all the artifacts that have been excavated from the Serpent Mound. It's like, oh, hey, these are definitely connected to the other mounds. Period. In the story. So
there have definitely been some. I mean, like, history is obviously an agreed upon lie, as Napoleon said. So, like, there's definitely been stuff that historians hand wave where, like, that doesn't make sense how it got there, but they go, well, it doesn't fit into our model, so it must be a mistake.
Stonehenge comes to mind for me. I've been there and seen them. I'm like, how did you do this?
Well, I would point out that I have a view on history that is, I would love to sit down and talk to Randall, for example, about this. Because there's a piece of technology that I have kind of started viewing human history in 6,000 year segments. Is every 6,000 years something happens, causes humanity to basically reset to a baseline technological level. And mind you, the reason why I view it this way is because we have both the disaster cycle, which, more people are starting to pay attention to. But then we also have the fact that we have we're now understanding that, for example, the Copper Age lasted a lot longer than we might have realized at first. The Bronze Age lasted a lot longer than we might have realized. And then we're starting to get the proof that, like, for example, carbon dating and ice cores are complete bullshit.
Yeah, they're total bullshit. Yeah. And
well, carbon dating specifically is hilarious to me because after the study that specifically debunked carbon dating, like, what was it, 2 years ago now? It showed, like, past 10,000 years, carbon dating is
useless
as a tactic, because it is, you have repeats of the same carbon isotopes at different depths, whereas then ice cores are just laughable because a Norwegian team, and this was literally like within the past 6 months, a Norwegian team is up in Greenland collecting ice cores, and they rediscovered a crashed B-17 at a depth that they were trying to claim was 10,000 years of ice.
Yeah.
And it's like they rediscovered a B-17 at that depth from World War II that had crashed in Greenland during the whole ferrying of aircraft across the North Sea. So it's like,
So how old, can I ask you this? Are you Christian?
Adjacent. Nobody can put a label on me. I've had Orthodox try to call me a Gnostic. I've had Catholics try to call me a Protestant. I've had Protestants who look at me and they're like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Because 9 times out of 10 they end up being an evangelical Protestant. So I have my own views on things, and so it's, I believe in God and Christ and all that? Yes. But I don't fall into any of the predominant labels.
Do you attend any kind of a mainline church?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, how old do you think creation actually is?
Oh, at this point in time, I kind of view it the same. So I have a view, 7 days, 7 billion years. I think, personally speaking, I think creation and evolution line up perfectly. It's just a case of we
So
didn't
you're
have, as humans, personally, as humans, we didn't have a concept of time previous to
well, it's
basically the classical era.
I mean, Genesis does say that on the first day, right? How could it be day? There was no light, right? So there's not a. And I don't view as I accept the totality of the scriptures, including Genesis. So I don't have a problem with that because I think that what's being relayed in Genesis is not like there were no hours, there was no time, but I don't know how I'm way more open to like the earth being like creation could be like thousands of years old. I don't mean 5,000, it might be like 100,000, but like I just totally discount all the I don't have any of the presuppositions that I used to have like in scientism and these other things, and I think that all of that has been built on like a bed of sand and false assumptions. So I
True.
But
anything that COVID taught us is that a lot of stuff that we've been told is all bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, remember what I said the other day, David. I made it very clear. You know, the science community it's one of the most lost of any of the communities out there because they're fighting so much over funding. You know, there's a finite number of dollars coming into that area of the economy. And so they're all fighting for what scraps they can get a hold of. And so at the end of the day, they'll say and do whatever they need to in order to secure funding.
Oh, yeah. I got a great example of this. First off, I have a government appointment, and it's not for science or industry, but in my appointment, I tell out basically Ontario has this giant trust fund, and we use it to support local organizations, nonprofits, that kind of thing. During the first few years, everything in it was DEI. And as soon as Trump came in, none of the people are pushing that anymore in there. So it's always like, why is this local canoe club going to be for trans people? There's like no trans people here. But in the proposal, it would be all about trans people or diverse communities. But as soon as the situation ended, they did that. And the other example is in Nazi Germany, when if you wanted to get a grant proposal, you had to trace it back to some sort of like Aryan thing. So if you wanted to do a study of like on on birds, you would make it about the racial superiority of certain German birds over other birds.
The German the good German eagle or whatever they love.
Yeah, whatever. So you had to coach it into the language of the period of the time. I'm sure that at one time it was all these proposals were all about environmental stuff. That was before I got there. But yeah, people will try to get their money by basically saying things.
Well,
Yeah.
So here's something I'll point out as well in regards to the science community as well, is because you look at the response to the situation with carbon dating.
Yeah, which
then the debunking of carbon dating occurs right before, like literally maybe 3-4 days prior. Then all of a sudden they find in Morocco one of the oldest known specimens of early humans. And then they're like, well, shit, we can't carbon date. And then they do electromagnetic dating, which if you guys you use electromagnetic radiation, the half-life and whatnot to date something. And they did it on that specimen, and it placed it around 370,000 years. And it's like, Oh shit!
Yeah.
And mind you, this is the oldest
a-
known specimen of Homo
Hominid?
sapien.
Homo
Yeah,
sapien.
Homo sapien. They're not even hominid. Homo sapien. The same cranium structure, same jaw structure, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, oh fuck. and then it's actually, it goes into one of the theories that I've had for a long time. You know, the story of, how, giants are in the Bible and whatnot.
We were actually talking about that earlier.
Yeah. The what's the term they have for them?
Well, so the Nephilim.
Nephilim. Yes, thank you.
This is actually something that it's tough to say. The Bible uses the term giant, but it doesn't necessarily mean, that's an English translation. The actual Hebrew word, which I can't remember off the top of my head, it just is denoting somebody of great stature. And the stature is not necessarily just height. It could be like, it talks about like them these would have been like, maybe they were taller, but like they could have just been
Men of influence.
Men of great influence.
Here's the reason why I bring that up specifically is because it goes into my theory that you have these stories of these of these great wars that occurred between different groups of people, and we now know without any real doubt that different groups of Homo what's the term that they use for all the different variants of human, quote unquote? I forget. Oh yeah, hominid. Yeah. Sorry, I'm late, somewhat late for me, so I'm trying to remember all these terms. But we now know that basically all hominids of each variety have encountered one another throughout history. Given different sites that we've discovered. And the story of the Nephilim interests me from the perspective of, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so we know Homo erectus is a thing. And we know how big those guys were. What if the story of the Nephilim is literally just a story of Homo sapien versus Homo erectus?
Well, obviously, I'm going to take a different tact on that.
Huh?
So obviously, I'm going to have a different view on it than that.
That's fine. But my whole thing is, the reason why I bring this kind of stuff up is because we have these situations where a lot of these different stories come into being. Like, for example, Noah's Ark. It's like, hey, disaster cycle. That kind of lines up, especially given the fact that we have, boulders from the Atlantic in the middle of the Himalayas. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Yep, no, it's no doubt it's true. We have those temples in Malta that were built according to Neolithic times when we shouldn't be building things like that. We have some stuff, the cave cities in Turkey. Like we have all these and the stuff, and whatever the hell is located under the Great Pyramid that we detected.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I got nothing for the Great Pyramids on that one. I don't know, but the Egyptians just do not want people digging. They just won't let them.
Well, Hancock pointed out that he thinks the guy will, the Egyptologist will do it if you can prove that it's safe. So he says we have the temples in Malta, we have the underground cities in Turkey. We need to test on those things first and prove that this drilling will be safe and won't damage anything, and it works, to see if it actually works. And then he thinks they will, once they have proof of concept that this is more than just some randos engineers, he thinks he can get them to drill.
Well, are they ever going to let him get into that chamber at the center of the pyramid?
He says
I don't know how you get in there without destroying something. Are they ever going to? I mean, what about the chamber that is in the center of the pyramid that nobody's been in? that the same guy won't let them in. Because I don't know how you're going to be able to get in there without destroy the removal of material. I'm not saying you have to like blow it up with dynamite like the guy that found Troy, but like I don't know how you're going to get in there without drilling.
Yeah, and that'll be a different one there. So I don't know, not as hopeful to that, but they could if this technology is proved right, you could scan the inside through with the technology and at least get an impression of what's in there.
Well. So one of the things that I like to point out is after the LiDAR scans of the pyramids were done, what was that, 3 or 4 years ago now? That revealed the subterranean structure beneath the pyramids. We have had several different teams coming up with different ideas. One of the ideas that was actually floated was a fracking company, actually, funny enough. That was like, hey, we could drill a borehole, it'd be about the size of a quarter. We could drill a borehole through a segment of the pyramid, and then we could stick a LiDAR probe down that borehole and then start taking scans of the internal structure as much as possible in order to use that as a determinant of, okay, we can do this, exploratory drilling effectively, which, mind you, fracking companies they excel at.
Yeah.
So it's one of those fun things where, the internal chamber, the central chamber of the pyramid, for me personally, is not what interests me. I could care less about the central chamber because frankly speaking, I think the central chamber was nothing more than a tomb itself. Personally, it's the subterranean structure. The subterranean structure itself, because one of the things that, one of the discussions I had previously with a gentleman who is incredibly invested in the pyramids, he was very, very interested. It's like, hey, Ben Davidson did his whole foray into the disaster cycle. He did his whole thing. And basically he said, the further underground you can get, the better, period in the story. And then, the LiDAR scans reveal that subterranean structure. And, the guy I was talking to, he was like, that looks like a very elaborate bunker system to me, because this guy had worked on subterranean parking garages. That was his job. He had done subterranean parking structures for like 20 years now. And quite a few of the projects that he had worked on specifically were those types that, went 8-10 stories underground, under buildings. So he's like, I want to see what that is, because if that's what I think it is from the overall design and layout that we can see now, that's a freaking colony. That's a bunker underneath the pyramids, and that's much more interesting than whatever the hell is inside the pyramid itself. And I tend to agree with him.
I just do not see a world in which the Egyptian government is going to okay anybody drilling. I just don't. It's a political.
I think they definitely want it. Once they know something is there, I think you can do a drill into the area underneath. But no, I don't think anyone's going to put a lot of drill into the Grand Pyramid.
Yeah, no, they won't. They would never.
Oh, no. The borehole in question would be like it would be a specific site set off to the side, and then they would bore. They'd bore down and then horizontally.
Yeah.
So they would do like Saddam did to the Kuwaitis.
Well, they would use fracking technology in order to drill.
Yeah.
Which
the Kuwaitis was doing it to Saddam. That's
Oh
why
yeah,
they made
I got that backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just one. To be completely frank, while I agree with you in the current day, I would say give it a couple years, because here's the thing: is right now they're trying to find a way to save the labyrinth. So right now, if you're not aware, the labyrinth is filling with water. The sub level of the labyrinth is completely filled. Ever since they built that big old reservoir, the sub level of the labyrinth has completely filled in. They cannot access it at this point in time. The upper layer of the labyrinth is currently filling, and they're looking to find ways to be able to drain the water away from the labyrinth. And the same fracking company that I referenced earlier is also working on a project there as well. So if they can prove themselves by saving the labyrinth, they might just get the opportunity to actually work on trying to get into the pyramid itself. And mind you, the Egyptians are just as interested in getting into the pyramids as we are, because there's a lot of history that the Egyptians themselves don't know about their own people, because there is this massive missing link between two of the different segments of the Egyptian population. We have the super, super well-known Hellenic era. And then we have the mostly well-known pre-Hellenic era. But then there's an era that we know for damn sure exists previously, but we don't really have any answers about it. And
like how old is the Sphinx? How old is the Great Pyramid? It looks like they're both much older than they are, and they had evidence that they went through a great flood at some point.
Yeah, well, and that's the point, is that, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, is there a segment of the Egyptian population that, survived or died underneath the pyramids? And then all of a sudden, they were able to emerge, and, or did they die under there? It would actually, to be completely frank, it would be illuminating if we got down there and all of a sudden, one of the pyramids, there's no bodies, and then underneath the other one, there is bodies. Because then it'd be like, okay, what happened here that didn't happen there?
Silo or Fallout.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said it's like Silo or Fallout.
Well, so the reason why I bring that up is because Ben Davidson, the thing he said is he thinks that the pyramids were the last ditch effort of the Egyptians to survive the last disaster cycle. Which, if the disaster cycle happens the way we think it's supposed to happen, then there's a very high likelihood that that's exactly what the pyramids were built for. Because the Egyptians, as we do understand, and we have this good understanding that the Egyptians and the Atlanteans are intrinsically linked. Like, the two are linked very heavily. And so are the Greeks. Especially given the fact that, hey, what's the one piece of technology that the Greeks had but never used? Anybody know?
No, not off the top of my head.
Steam technology.
Oh, yeah, I do recall that. There's a bunch of technologies that are like Archimedes kind of stuff. There, where they find it's one guy, he invents something really cool, but because they don't have the ability to transmit the idea widely, it dies with him.
Yeah, I think it was Hero of Alexandria.
Well, that's the thing, is that the steam engine, in concept, the steam engine is a very basic fucking technology.
Yeah.
Hell, what are nuclear reactors? They're literally the pinnacle of the steam engine. In effect. And so it's like, okay, wait a minute. What are the chances? Because the Atlanteans, being, renowned as this great naval power that they were, or supposedly were, What are the chances that they had steamboats?
I did read in high school a science fiction novel where that happens, where the Romans get steamboats technology and go to America. But it was really comical, so it's not like a serious.
No, I want to point out that there were Greeks later that this would have been 1780, 1790, somewhere in that region, that were actually like, there was a full-on thing going on with like researching like, hey, this whole steam thing is starting to become a thing. Didn't we have this at one point in time? And there was this whole history that was being they were trying to recover across the board. And they were like, oh shit, there's history that shows that that some Greeks back in the day did attempt to create something akin to a steamship.
But
Now,
isn't the problem that they didn't have the metallurgy to be able to withstand the pressures that steam required to?
That was one of the main issues, is because the steam engine that I forget the guy's name off the top of my head.
Here, I think it's Hero of Alexandria.
Okay, if that is him. But the steam engine that they had was made of bronze.
It was a little skinny. It was like a pot belly thing with on two wheels that spun around.
Yeah, it was a horse. And a lot of people have equated it to a toy. Which then it's like, okay, well, what if, for example, the Atlanteans, having mastered this technology, having an understanding of it, being able to create steam engines out of bronze, which bronze at that point in time would have been the metal that you would use for it. You could do low pressure, because you can do steam engines out of copper sheeting, but it's not going to be able to do high pressure. It could do low pressure.
Yeah.
Whereas bronze would be able to do high pressure to a degree. It wouldn't be able to run continuously, but you could do high pressure, especially given the welding pseudo welding technology that they had in the time period. Would have been able to hold up. If you guys have never seen that, it's actually quite ingenious how they did welding back in that day.
It would make sense with the ramming technology. So you'd be using your rowers, but in combat, you'd use your steam engine for short bursts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the point is at the end of the day, you have this situation where it's like, okay, what if humanity had this technology? We get hit with the disaster cycle, Great Flood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden we're reset back to phase one, but this technology exists still. And one of the things that, again, you look at the fact that we have boulders from the Atlantic in the Himalayas. You hike up to Mount Everest, you literally pass a boulder that has crustaceans in it. There's crustaceous fossils in the boulder right there on the surface. It's a notable landmark on the trail up Everest. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Now, then that ties, for me, in my opinion, that ties into the Mound Builders, because, now with the Mound Builders, we know that they were copper level technology, bare minimum. The limited excavations that have been done at the mounds, we found copper tools, we found ceramics that were definitely much more advanced than what we see out of the quote unquote native tribes of the time. And then we start looking at the Mesoamericans, and it's like, all right, so you guys were the most advanced out of all of these people, period, in the story. On this continent, you were the most advanced. So how did these things get here and then all of a sudden are just not available? Because, The Mesoamericans didn't have any of that stuff.
Mhm.
So then it starts to become a question of, why did these guys have them, but you guys didn't? Well, then it's like, okay, what are the chances that these two groups either never encountered each other because, the Aztecs are too far south, and we do know that there was a large gap between civilization between southern United States and central Mexico. There's basically, it was basically just a giant wasteland back in the day. And then it's like, okay, why did the Native Americans that we know of, why did they not preserve any of that stuff? And then it's like, okay, more than likely this stuff was coming from other places. It wasn't from here. It wasn't a homebrew civilization that had created these things. It was a civilization from overseas that had traveled, which, again, we look at the ease in which the Portuguese reached the Americas. Like, literally, they got here within, 3 months? They got here.
It's easier getting here than it is getting back.
Well, yeah, because of the currents and everything. Especially once you go down to Africa and hop across. So it's literally a case of clearly there was colonization that was going on prior that we have no idea about. And of course, I've been handed a baby.
Okay.
And it's very interesting from the perspective of, okay, who were the people colonizing this? Well, clearly they had copper tool technology of some kind. And then it becomes, it just from there, it starts becoming we figure out what the missing links are and how they died. Because again, the Mayans, we know how they died. At this point in time, we have a good idea. Massive pandemic sweeps through a civilization, just wipes them the fuck out. Which then we realize, oh, hey, the Portuguese/Spanish are responsible for that plague. Same thing happens with the Incas. The Incas mostly survive. The Aztecs, similar thing happens to them. They aren't nearly as affected by it because they were affected by the original infection that took out the Mayans, and because the Mayans were such a smaller group of people, there wasn't the bodies able to sustain the Mayan civilization. But the Aztecs, because of how much bigger of a group they were able to take the losses and then just rebound. Whereas the Incas, being a much more hardy folk than the average Mesoamerican, they were able to kind of just weather the storm. So then it becomes an interesting situation where it's like, oh, yeah, we definitely need to try to figure out what happened to these different groups in order to understand not only our own history, but where the fuck we're going. Because this stuff does matter in the future planning as well as the historical record.
Yeah. Yeah. So just interesting things to ponder. Certainly, I don't think we were going to get to this point at the beginning of the show.
Sorry.
No problem. No, I think
I heard the discussion and I was like,
I don't understand. What's the time frame then for the Mound Builders? Pre-Antediluvian?
So the problem is that there's not a well-established timeline for them, because there's still this whole, well, if there was this great big civilization here, where did it come from? How did it, do this, et cetera, et cetera. There's the whole speculation that, this mound was built by this group. And here's the thing is there's there is this very large issue where there are certain mounds that are of a more basic sort. That it's like, okay, we can see something like the hunter-gatherer groups building these. But then the more intricate mounds, like, for example, the Serpent Mound itself, I'll just use that one. The Serpent Mountain it's a much more intricate, a much more, like, the geometry of the mound itself is incredibly, like, if you know anything about Mesoamerican history, like they had the concept of within their religious functions, the concept of symmetry. Everything had to have a symmetry about it. The Serpent Mound has a symmetry to it that is uncanny for not being Mesoamerican. And there's a certain line of thinking that it could be a Mesoamerican linked group that built the Serpent Mound specifically because they like the Aztec writers themselves, going back to when the Spanish monks were transcribing and writing stuff down. There's actually a discussion about some of these mounds in North America as a whole, because, some of them had been discovered up to that point. So there is a lot of back and forth that, I personally have the opinion that, the timeline of, 3,500 years ago, it's like, did all of these really exist 3,500 years ago? Or are we talking, they've been stretched out over the course of, say, 10,000 years? And that's the problem, is that, I have a view that, again, 7 days to create the world or create the universe, whatever word you want to use, could equate to 7 billion years, because as humans, we had no concept of time. And so we had to build a story in order to fit that into a narrative to pass it down as a history. Because, again, difference between the spoken word, the written word, conversation.
Why would we have anything about, you're saying this is a anthropological origin, the story of Genesis?
I believe that it to a degree, yes. I do believe that it requires more study and more research than I am willing in the current day. Maybe in 10 years, 15 years, when I've got the time and I've got the actual resources to actually push into doing that research and actually trying to knuckle down whether or not that link exists. Personally, I see it that way from the perspective of looking at it from 10,000 feet. It's like, okay, why do both of these have to be mutually exclusive? Why do they have to be?
Why do what have to be mutually exclusive?
Oh, the idea, the whole concept of creationism and evolution. Like, why do these two things? Because I've always had the perception, personally speaking, that the argument between creationism and evolution has been absolutely stupid. Personally speaking, I've absolutely hated that argument across the board. I thought the discussion in general it's not just been overblown, it's been rehashed a million times, and it's like it hasn't been enjoyable to actually try to have a discussion about this stuff.
Well, it's not you're talking about what's called theistic evolution. So that's something that people talk about, but why would you accept any story? Hold on, I've just been texted. I have to get tissues to my wife. But
yeah,
all good.
1 second.
Yeah, his wife is really sick right now. She can't talk. And I've had laryngitis. on a couple of occasions, and when that happens, it is as bad as they make it out in TV shows, because you're just like shouting at the top of your lungs to try and get sound out.
What I was saying is, why would you accept anything from, if your view would be that what Genesis is an anthropological origin, not divine revelation, of humans transmitting the story of their own evolution?
So yes, that is part of it. Now, I also have a view that, and this is my personal view, and this is why I don't fit into any of the boxes that most people try to put me in. I also have a view that the basis of faith is, it is entirely meant to create the will for humans to push forward. If we are locked into a survival mode at all times, we become incredibly apathetic. We become incredibly nihilistic. We become incredibly agitated against anything and everything. I would reference the current day United States population.
If we were evolved creatures, then why would that be the case? Because that doesn't make sense. If we were evolved, then we shouldn't need that to exist. That would be evidence.
Well, that's the problem, is that we are chaos incarnate. Humans are an incredible species in which we can do the greatest, most wonderful things, while also at the same time on another part of the planet do some of the most horrendous and horrible things known to man. And we do not have the capacity to change that. There's no changing that aspect about us. We can't beat it out of our children. We can't re-educate people. We can't force people to do one thing or another. Humans always find a way to either buck the trend or just outright rebel and kill the oppressor. That's just that's just the human way. And so faith as a concept, as an overall necessity for humanity, is built on one thing and one thing only: our need to have purpose.
But why do we need, right? But the issue would be, if we're evolved creatures, why would we need that that doesn't make any sense for me personally, because why would we, if we evolved for that, have this vulnerability if it wasn't something that was created within us, with a desire for purpose that's for a higher calling? What that?
Well, that's the thing, is at the end of the day, it's chaos. Whether or not we can figure that out, because I don't have an answer. Anybody who claims to have an answer to that is going to be a fucking liar. Because to be completely frank, I'll be 100% real with you. I was one of the most agnostic motherfuckers that you would ever meet. Literally maybe 5-6 years ago. And then over the course of the past 5 to 6 years, I have started building, I started working on what is the fucking point. And then eventually I got to the point where it's like, you know what? I do believe in something, but what is that thing? And then I continued working from there. I've always joked that I am the guy that I refer to myself as an eternal pilgrim, because I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always looking for the next book, the next chapter, the next verse, et cetera, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to just sit down and sit on your pew bench and fucking, listen to your sermon. I'm going to take a walk over there and fucking listen to that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. I'm going to continuously be listening across the board, because at the end of the day, what are you all saying? And then let's take what you're all saying and compare it.
So syncretism.
The point is that I look at what each person says and then I collate that with what the histories, because that's also another thing for me, is that I view the Bible more from the perspective of a history book, the histories of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go,
it's a universal history. It's that other religions don't provide.
And then I look at the apostles specifically, and I look at what they wrote, because I got into this conversation with David the other day with what was the gentleman's name?
Wasserman.
Yeah, Wasserman. You never sent me his link, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
All good. But I was having a discussion with those two, and I said there's a key difference between the spoken language and the read language, because we innately, instinctually know how to speak as humans. We need to learn how to read. We need to be taught how to read. And
well, I don't know that there's observable. You are taught how to speak. You do learn how to speak.
No.
Children have been raised outside
you
of
learn
how to.
You learn how to speak by listening to the noises that are being made, just like how, for example, my daughter, her first word was hi.
Yes, but it's not like you don't. I'm not aware of any observed empirical language, like isolate languages arising. Right, we don't have. It's not observed empirically. We don't.
The reason why I say it, the reason
we have for that would be Babel. So I don't.
Well, and the point is that how that communication occurs, it could be through clicks, it could be through grunts, et cetera, and it has evolved. The voice has evolved over time. But the point is that, I look at what the Bible is today. I look at what the apostles wrote. I try desperately to find originals of everything I can.
What do you mean, like what the apostles wrote? I don't.
Oh, like the works of Peter and John and so on and so forth. And then
okay.
And then I make reference of what others say Jesus himself said. And then I start to look, like, for example, I've made the acknowledgement a while ago, like, I'm starting to feel that the Orthodox Church is the closest to the actual line.
Yeah.
Personally speaking.
Yeah.
Consider converting. If they had a Western ecclesiastical calendar, I probably would.
The reason why I say it is because you look at the Latin Church and you look at the Greek Church.
But this doesn't fit with. Not to be. You are.
No, I'm sorry. I'm kind of going off. So
yeah,
David, wrangle me back in. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why don't we just sit there for a while and let Owen interrogate?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say I don't know enough about the Coptic Christians, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are also more alive.
There's some of their writings
theological.
That
my group chat of that group at my church that I was mentioning before, David, that one of the guys sent out a theological compass thing where you answer all these questions and stuff. And my number one alignment was with the Coptic Orthodox.
Okay, there you go.
And I think it's probably due to my level of certainty and intolerance in the part of the
yes.
thing.
I think you're told I'm very certain as well by some people. How do you know? Why are you so certain on these things?
Why? Because I wasn't. Yeah. What I don't understand is why would you? So I will say, and I don't mean this as an attack, but I mean it as a descriptor. A lot of the things you're saying I would line up with essentially a type of Gnosticism. And I don't understand why you would, if you're going to say that you're going to go to other religions to get a full picture of how you think.
I just want to say this real quick. I fucking hate Gnostics. I can't stand them.
I'm not a big fan. I view most of the tech bros as Gnostics.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. I can't stand half of them.
and they're worse. They're merchants. They're Gnostic merchants. So, but which is just extra odious. Like the two on top of each other is just very unappealing. How are you going to be a Gnostic and you're not even going to be part of some kind of priesthood class? It doesn't even make sense. But I think that, and again, the word I'm going to use here, I mean it philosophically. Okay, because it's going to sound like I'm saying something that I'm not. So don't take offense with what I'm about to say.
Oh no, just say David can tell you.
I think that some of these things are philosophically, theologically incoherent, and in the sense of they don't go together, right? As a system, what I've been hearing you describe, and I think you're working through it,
baby girl.
It sounds like you're working like through that, trying to find truth, which is the most important thing. Right. If you have that as a guiding light. So I don't mean this in any kind of attack. So I think you're like looking for that truth in that thing. But I think that when you start getting into like, why would you, if you don't, that's why and I bring this up because you're saying like, oh, well, the Orthodox Church is, I find closest to the truth. I was surprised. I'm trying to elucidate further your view on things. Because I was surprised to hear you say that, because the Orthodox Church would say that I think they would ask, well, then by what, how would it be that they're like closer to the truth or closest to the truth? They're the most in the worldview paradigm that they present. There's no inconsistencies in the theology, and they would say that all these other things are incoherent and inconsistent, specifically like Buddhism or any of these other stories, anything outside of the Bible. So I don't really understand how what's your epistemics for how you're getting like of religious nature, because what do you think? Do you view, if you're saying the Orthodox are closest to the truth, what is you're interested in the apostles? Are you saying that you believe in the Christian God, specifically the Trinitarian?
Well, so the whole Trinitarian debate, like I have never really gotten into that, and I haven't really done a discussion or any like significant research into that personally.
It's probably not interesting unless you've already a Christian, and then but
yeah, well, not just that, but also I've been told I have a bit of a blasphemous view on things.
I would say that based on the conversation, I would probably, if you were a Christian, I would say I think that would probably be a semi-accurate description.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Like wait.
For me, like blasphemy, I usually am much more about heresy than blasphemy.
Yeah, I would say I don't know that I would say blasphemous, because to blaspheme would be to like curse God and Christ and things, whereas heresy.
Okay, so let me hit you with a curveball for a second. So my perspective on it is, as my daughter is screaming, my perspective on it is Jesus was a man and then became Christ after revival.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty big heresy, bro. You're not going to find an Orthodox church. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's a personal view on it.
That's why I said he was more of a deist than.
Well, that right there is actually what caused a couple Orthodox people to be like, "Okay, I think you're a Gnostic," and I'm like,
yeah, that's
I don't know.
No, I don't think you're Gnostic. I think you're deist.
That's aspects. No, you're not. You can't be a deist if you're saying that a man became God. That's not deism.
No. I'm saying a man became Christ. The Son of God became Christ. So on and so forth. The way the history and the way it's told, it's like, again, the way I view it personally is from a perspective of this man comes into the world, shepherds people along, and then dies, and then comes back as this figure, as this being of, it's just the way things shape up personally in my head, from my viewpoint, from my perspective. Now, to get back on track, and again, I told you I have a bit of a wild card.
Look, I brought on Owen Jones on my last episode because I needed to know why the Christian Zionists were heretical, because it was really bothering me. I could detect the heresy.
There's so much scripture, even right away, like in the beginning of, there were so many more I didn't get to, like in the beginning, Matthew 3, where Christ.
All you have to say is Schofield. Like, that's all you have to do is say Schofield.
Yeah, but it contradicts, with scripture. So if you accept scripture as divine revelation, which is not to say that we're not Muslims. We don't say that like God whispered the words into somebody's ear or something like that. But you would say that there's nothing in it. You would say there's nothing in the air. So you can't. And the other thing, and one of the things that if you accept it as that is scripture would be that it condemns picking and choosing. You can't pick and choose the parts that you like and that you don't like, which would be part of the cohesive, coherent worldview, because picking when you do that, it turns the whole thing like it's like Lego bricks. Like you can't mix in Roblox; it doesn't work. And when you can't have scripture that contradicts other scripture. So but there's even more scripture, David, I didn't get to, like Matthew 3.
We didn't have time. I wanted to get the show done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't. That was going to be like a huge, long. You were getting prepared for like a 4-hour stream.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a part where Christ says, God can raise up sons of Abraham from these stones, and he's talking about about putting away the children of the body aren't really what matters. It's not the blood; it's the people that are of God, and also that what is being relayed there would be that anyone can enter, can be made to become part of that through God.
We can always do another episode on this subject and delve deeper into it. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, for me, it was just like I was last week I got really angry at the Catholic Church because I was the Roman Catholics, because they were like not whatever the new Pope Leo was going out and
14th.
It's like anti-Christian nationalism, and I'm like, the reason we have Western civilization as we know it today is because of Christian nationalization. But I get it. You're like the first. You're the leader of the first globalist organization.
I would say that the correct orientation for the church is not globalist but universalist, right? So it doesn't mean it's not that they're not the same thing, but yeah.
Well, right now they are global.
So
yeah.
So real quick,
you want to fund a massive invasion of the southern United States border, which we know you and the Lutherans of all people did, and then you're going to come and lecture us about about Christian nationalism.
So I just want to point something out real quick in regards to that, and this is actually why I made the statement. I think the Orthodox are closer to the truth than anything. Is because of
I don't understand what the truth. So I'll let you. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically to the original form of what the church actually was, what it was supposed to be, what it was supposed to represent, et cetera, et cetera. And that's because of 1054, the schism in the Catholic Church. Because what you end up seeing as, things come out of the 300s and 400s, Roman Empire, the Latin and Greek churches. The Latin Church it exists for a short time as a distinct part of the overall church. The Latin and Greek churches coexist in a way that would never be seen after 1054. And then you have the influence of the old Roman oligarchy that was present even after the fall of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, I should say. And please do remember that the Byzantines, the Eastern Roman Empire, had fought several wars against the Western Empire because of certain aspects of the Western Empire that the Eastern Empire wanted to be done with, wanted to just get rid of. Like, for example, what was one of the main things that the Eastern Roman Empire did not have that the Western Empire did have?
The city of
gladiators. Gladiators.
Yeah, but that's from the Samnites. I mean, the gladiator stuff, when they Christianized, a lot of that was put away. I mean,
yes, but at the same time, the point is that all of a sudden you have a segment of the Western oligarchy, and I call it the oligarchy on purpose because basically you look at the Western Empire, the final 200 to 300 years, it was just a straight up oligarchy, similar to what Venice would become later down the line. David, you're aware of who I follow when it comes to this history.
Yeah.
And so what you end up having is that, again, the East and West fight multiple wars over certain things because the West keeps trying to impose upon the East on multiple different occasions. And then the East
Roman, the East and West Roman empires?
Oh, yeah, they fought multiple wars.
No, but after
after the fall of the Western Empire, but during the fall of the Western Empire. Because eventually the Western Empire just falls apart and fractures. Eventually,
there's a whole lot of civil wars is what I think Warhounds is referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I guess I don't view that as the East and West fighting each other, right? But what does that have to do with 1054?
It lays the groundwork because and you have to understand the families that are involved in this dynamic. The families that are involved in this dynamic are old. They are still present in the modern world. Like some of these families, they draw their lineage straight back to the empire. Just like how we have the Habsburgs, just like how we still have the Holsteins, so on and so forth.
Yeah, the patrician continue to exist throughout Italy.
Yep. And so what you end up having is that when the fracture between the churches happens, 1054, there is a lot of players in the background that are involved that are holding incredible grudges. They're throwing specific things out there where it's like, it's almost like you have a grudge from, almost 1,000 years ago, bud.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start seeing the Catholic Church, eventually becoming what we now call the Roman Catholic Church, becoming very Roman. And then it's like, oh, the Roman oligarchy, the Western oligarchy, always had its hands in it. And then the Western oligarchy controlling the Roman Catholic Church went after the Eastern Church as much as possible. Remember, during the Crusades, the majority of the deaths weren't Muslims. They weren't Catholics. They were Orthodox. The number of Orthodox kingdoms and city-states that were burned as part of that.
As part of what?
The Crusades. The Crusades saw hundreds of Orthodox cities razed to the ground. Hell, the Fourth Crusade. We all know that one.
The Crusade wasn't even a crusade. It was because the Venetians were in hock to financiers after they built that fleet, dog. I got Mashad I got Michelle Doyle's 2-volume history of the Crusades up there.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Well, you're correct, but at the same time, you have to understand one thing is that then you look at the people who are in Venice at that point in time, and a lot of the same families that were involved in previous dealings to deal with the schism. Yeah, they're all there. That's the
schism. The schism was a result of the addition of the Filioque into the Nicene Creed. So and the fact that the Pope, the Patriarch of Rome, the Pope, had basically been breaking symphonia, which is an Orthodox term that has to do with the proper relationship between the church and the state of the Christian world, right? Which is that they don't have separation of church and state, but they have a symphonia where they have individual roles that they are supposed to fulfill that work in conjunction with one another. For instance, the church doesn't execute people, but the church can hand people over to the state for them to try and execute them. So this is the reason it happened is because churches have the church as a whole, right? When it's whole, has councils. The councils are ecumenical councils. The councils have apostolic authority to bind the conscience of the church, to pass laws that are binding, that can't be unbound afterwards. They're not like amendments to the Constitution. They're binding in the things that they're talking about, right?
Vows.
Well, the binding decision of not the Council of Nicaea, but Constantinople II, which is where we get the modern Nicene Creed, because the Nicene Creed doesn't come from the Council of Nicaea actually, but shortly thereafter, at the Second Constantinople Council, was that the Nicene Creed was not to be altered. That this was its final form. You could have other creeds, but they're not the Nicene Creed, and you can't add or subtract from the creed. In the West, what had happened, partly because of a translation, but also partly because of the accruing of a central monarchical role of the papacy, they added through papal supremacy the Filioque. The Filioque is a description of the relationship of the Trinity, wherein the Father, the Spirit comes from the Father and the Son. That's what Filioque means. They added "and the Son" rather than proceeding from the Father. The Orthodox position is one of the Cappadocian Fathers, and of what's called monarchical Trinitarianism. Monarchical Trinitarianism would be that the Son and the Spirit proceed from the Father. But they share a divine essence and substance. So the reason why this led to a breakdown was because the papacy, the Patriarch of Rome, which is one of the 5 patriarchs, key patriarchs of Christendom, had, through the fall of the secular power, which is a term that is derived from Christianity. Secular comes from saeculum, which is the age of man, which would be 80 to 100 years. It's a Latin word. It's the root derivative of secular. The secular state had fallen. The only structures really in the West was the church. The church began to take on roles in the West as the only organizational thing that it began to take on state roles. There are councils forbidding priests from holding political power that this would violate. As the Pope began to take on more of a princely role, which is forbidden, he also had what's called the Donation of Constantine, which is a forgery. The Donation of Constantine is a false document that was provided that they thought was real. I'll say that. Yeah. That they thought was real. I have the book from Lorenzo de Valla called The Donation of Constantine, also on my bookshelf, that had to do with the fact that the idea that Constantine had given to the Roman bishop dominion over all churches west of, I can't remember where now. This was the justification for the monarchical role that he'd had in the West. Well, with the separation of the West and East after the fall, with communication and violence and breakdown, right? Not between one another, but making communion more difficult. The papacy took on papal supremacy, essentially, whereby the Pope had a monarchical role that what he said went, rather than, and even at the time, it developed. It's a developed theology that develops over the course of hundreds of years from the 6th century forward. But even at the time, the Pope still took, even though they held that position philosophically, they still took what's called a collegiate role in the college of the successors. The bishops are part of what would be called the successors to the college of the apostles. So it's a collegiate role between equals. And this is why there was a breakdown. That's why there was a split. Because the Pope said that he had the authority over something that he did not have the authority over.
Okay.
That violated
Owen, I just want to say, I'd like to end the show pretty soon. I'd like to hear you and Warhound talk this issue out, and maybe we can do some sort of regular show together where we can get into all these issues, because we have a lot to say. It's great stuff, but I just like to keep the podcast around 2 hours.
Yeah, okay. And I am enjoying listening and getting
to learn,
because I know most of the basic history, but there are some details that I pick up. But the problem is I do need to go to bed.
What's that?
I already started one of those quizzes that you mentioned there, Owen, to figure out. But I do think I'm really heavily Anglican. It's my personal.
A lot of the guys in the chat got Anglican. I got to tell you, I was the only Copt. I was the only Copt. But my number two, the other ones down on my list were Imperial Christianity, which they said would have been like 325 Christianity after Council Nicaea, and then also the Society of Saint Pius X, which is, you might know as SSPX, which is a very traditional rad trads of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Real quick, I would like
Orthodox was my number two.
What's that?
I'd like to respond to JP in the chat real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Some have argued the Roman Catholic Church is the Roman Empire, essentially. Here's the thing, is the Roman Catholic Church is not the Roman Empire. The Roman Catholic Church is the ledger.
Yeah.
It is the ledger by which these families, and again, it's a collection of families. And no, don't try to research them because they don't have Wikipedia pages. And unless
a few of them do actually, but
yes, I understand that. But some of these families, they have made it very, very, very clear that they don't like being known, and they go out of their way to silence those who tried to research them. And there's been several fucking journalists that have ended up, hanging off of bridges because of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, by the way, Crypto Rich is now following me on X. I reached out to him because I'm trying to get someone at Promethean Action, or Tom knows some of the stuff I know about Canada, but all these people have very weird perspectives on Canada that isn't true, but they just assume we're aligned. I say Canada's not working for the City of London. We're working with the City of London, and when and they've screwed us over in the past, which I was talking to Owen.
David, you're not working with or for. You're the piggy bank.
No, that's not how it
works. No. Listen. The number of natural resources present in Canada is astro-fucking-nomical.
Oh, yeah.
And what has happened in Canada over the course of the past 20 to 30 years? They have done everything in their fucking power to prevent you from harvesting said resources.
I understand that.
Because there is nothing.
We were fine until... Here's something you have to understand, and I'm going to do a show tomorrow about the history of Canada. And it's basically, it's all about how our oligarchs realized that Britain was looking out for themselves and not for them. They weren't consulted on a bunch of things, and we have quietly moved away from them. And we're happy to work with them on stuff. Like we like to get our slice of the drug share money, but the minute they prove themselves to be dispensable, they will be dispensed with.
I understand, but again, my point is that there's nothing safer than in the ground. That's how these people think.
Yep.
They are
And you're already
non-productive.
seeing people here deciding to get into that ground stuff. So unless they're
I know.
killing a lot of people,
I know. No, that's the point. That's why they flooded. Okay, David, I've said this before, and I will say it again. I've said it on my podcast. They flooded your country with a bunch of brown people on purpose because brown people don't like white people, and so white people get dead.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I understand this idea that they had to flood us with brown people because they know otherwise we wouldn't put up with this crap. So, anyways, maybe on that note, we can leave it there. I was hoping to get, maybe we can make this a regular roundtable where we get into the depths of Christianity, and that'd be interesting to me. And like I said, I'm already starting.
I'd be down for that. It's a bottom. Christianity is a well without a bottom. You'll always send your bucket down and find more water. So it's very deep, and I'm into philosophy. I'm into all the different fields of philosophy and theology as they intertwine. So everything's holistic, really. And I'd be happy because I don't think we've really reached the end of this conversation. And I would recommend Warhound. There's a great Orthodox debater and guy you would really like. He's, I think, Jay Dyer.
I've heard the name.
What's that?
I've heard the name.
Right, yeah. I've never seen him lose a debate. If you understand, sometimes the people he's arguing with think they've won because they're dumb. They don't understand philosophy. They don't understand they undercut their own argument with what they're saying. But he's never lost a debate that I've seen. And he got me really close. I almost converted to Orthodoxy. And I'm not totally opposed to it. I mean, if there were an American Orthodox church that I don't like the GOA for reasons, and if they had a Western calendar, I might have ended up as Orthodox. But I would say maybe check out some of the stuff he has where he debates people that hold positions similar maybe to some of your ideas and things that you think, and see what you think about what he has to say about them. He is kind of mean, people say. I don't think he's mean. I think he's debating people. But
he seems, I haven't watched him do any debates, but he's definitely in the Andrew Wilson, the Crucible style situation. From what
I mean, Andrew debates a little bit differently than Jay. They're both Orthodox Christians.
Yeah.
A lot of great fruit coming out of that recently, but Jay takes the transcendental argument for God. He wrote his, I want to say his doctorate was on that, but where the existence of essentially mathematically it's y in if x then y, because y is the necessary precondition for x. X exists, therefore y. So the idea would be there that transcendental categories, which are things like knowledge, logic, mathematics, these things are transcendental categories that essentially by their own name.
I apologize, boys. I'm going to jump out because baby.
Yeah, I just want to.
Baby is the baby. Good.
Yeah. So I appreciate you guys. I will talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.
You guys have a good night.
Anyways, why don't we, I think on that note, we should end it here. I'd like to have a few words with you after the stream there, Owen, about something. And then, so thanks for the 2 people or maybe more that tuned in, and all the people will watch in the future. And, but if you like this kind of thing, Christianity, ancient civilizations, and even occasionally modern day politics is how we started the stream.
I didn't expect it to change so much. Yeah,
that's how conversations work. So if you like that kind of thing, like, share, and subscribe. Bye.